Did you know that in the 1950s, 1 in 3 Hollywood films was a Western? This golden era brought tales of justice, morality, and American identity to the big screen. But what made these films so powerful? Today, we're looking at the most influential Westerns from this era. Some familiar, some unexpected, but all legendary. From dusty saloons to high noon showdowns, these classics shape both cinema and America's self-image. Ready to saddle up and discover which classics made the cut? Let's get into it. Fantasy, sci-fi, nostalgia, rerun zone. Shane, 1953.
Joey, there's no living with a killer. There's no going back from him.
Shane is a gripping Western that tells the tale of a lone gunfighter caught between his violent past and the hope for a peaceful future. When Shane, a quiet yet formidable drifter, rides into a small Wyoming valley, he finds a community of hard-working homesteaders struggling against the ruthless cattle baron Rufus Riker, who's determined to drive them from their land. Shane takes refuge with the Starrett family, where young Joey Starrett idolizes him, drawn to the aura of mystery and danger that surrounds the gunslinger. As Shane tries to settle into a life of simplicity, Riker's men escalate their campaign of intimidation, bringing in a notorious gunslinger, Jack Wilson, to do their dirty work. When the conflict reaches a boiling point, Shane knows he must act. He straps on his gun once more, facing Wilson in a dramatic saloon showdown that will decide the valley's fate. Victorious but wounded, Shane realizes his presence threatens the peace he fought for. With a final farewell to Joey, he rides off into the mountains, leaving behind a legend, a man who came as a stranger, but left as a hero. High Noon, 1952.
I sent a man up 5 years ago for murder. He was supposed to hang, but up north they commuted it to life. Now he's free.
High Noon is a tense, psychological Western that unfolds in real time, following one man's lonely stand against inevitable violence. Marshal Will Kane, played by Gary Cooper, has just married the beautiful Amy Fowler, played by Grace Kelly, and he's set to retire, ready to leave his badge behind for a quieter life. But as he prepares to depart the town of Hadleyville, a chilling message arrives. Outlaw Frank Miller, a man Kane sent to prison, has been pardoned and is arriving on the noon train to take revenge. Kane faces a moral dilemma: flee with Amy, a pacifist Quaker, or stay and confront Miller and his gang. Choosing duty over personal safety, he seeks help from the townspeople, only to find cowardice and self-interest at every turn. Even his closest friends turn their backs, and Amy, horrified by the prospect of violence, threatens to leave him. As the clock ticks towards high noon, Kane stands alone, armed with nothing but his resolve. The climatic showdown erupts in the deserted streets, but in an unexpected turn, Amy returns, breaking her pacifist vow to help him. With the town safe but his faith in its people shattered, Kane discards his badge and rides away, a man who did the right thing, but at great personal cost. The Searchers, 1956.
Just one reason we're here, ain't it? That's to find Debbie and Lucy. If they're still alive.
The Searchers is a powerful and haunting Western that explores obsession, vengeance, and redemption. The story follows Ethan Edwards, played by the legendary John Wayne, a hardened Civil War veteran who returns to his brother's Texas homestead, still a man out of place in a world that has moved on. His homecoming is short-lived when a brutal Comanche raid, led by Chief Scar, massacres his family and abducts his young niece Debbie. Consumed by rage, Ethan embarks on a relentless, years-long quest to find her, accompanied by his part Cherokee adoptive nephew, Martin Pauly. As they traverse the harsh and unforgiving frontier, Ethan's obsession deepens, revealing not just his determination, but his growing hatred. He believes that Debbie, now raised by the Comanche, is lost to them forever, and he'd rather see her dead than assimilated. After years of pursuit, they finally locate her, but when the moment of reckoning comes, something unexpected happens. Ethan, instead of trying to kill her, lifts her in his arms and brings her home. Yet, as the family reunites, Ethan remains an outsider, forever doomed to wander, framed in the doorway before turning away, leaving behind the home he can never have. Before the next movie, if you like these trips down memory lane, please hit that subscribe button or consider becoming a channel member. It keeps this passion project going strong and means the world to me. Thanks. And now, back to the show. Rio Bravo, 1959.
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to take on the duties of a sheriff's deputy in the...
Found yourself another knothead who don't know when he's well off?
Rio Bravo is a thrilling and character-driven western about duty, friendship, and courage in the face of overwhelming odds. Sheriff John T. Chance, played by John Wayne, finds himself in a dangerous standoff when he arrests Joe Burdett, the brother of a powerful rancher, for murder. Knowing that the Burdett gang will stop at nothing to free Joe, Chance prepares for a long and deadly siege. With few allies in the dusty Texas town, Chance must rely on an unlikely group. Dude, played by Dean Martin, a once great deputy drowning in alcohol. Stumpy, played by Walter Brennan, an aging but feisty crippled jailer, and the young, hot-headed gunslinger Colorado, played by Ricky Nelson. As they hold Joe in a small jail, the Burdett gang tightens its grip on the town, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Meanwhile, Chance crosses paths with Feathers, played by Angie Dickinson, a sharp-witted gambler who challenges his rigid sense of duty and awakens feelings he didn't expect. As tensions rise, the final showdown erupts in a gunfight, with Chance and his ragtag team standing their ground. Against the odds, they prevail, proving that courage and loyalty mattered more than numbers. In the end, justice is served, and Rio Bravo is safe. For now. Winchester 73, 1950.
Fellas, this is what you're shooting for. Take a good look at it. Say a prayer.
This gripping Western tale follows the journey of a legendary rifle and the men willing to kill for it. Lynn McAdam, played by James Stewart, arrives in Dodge City with his loyal friend High Spade, just in time for a shooting contest. The grand prize? A rare and highly coveted Winchester 73 rifle, known for its perfect craftsmanship. Lynn wins the contest, narrowly beating an arrogant sharpshooter. But before he can savor his victory, the rifle is stolen by his bitter enemy, Dutch Henry Brown, a ruthless outlaw with whom Lynn shares a dark past. Thus begins a relentless pursuit across the harsh frontier as the rifle changes hands, from outlaws to traitors, to native warriors and a cowardly gun dealer, leaving a trail of violence wherever it goes. Along the way, Lynn encounters Lola, a strong-willed saloon girl, caught in the crossfire, and the brutal forces shaping the West. The chase leads to a final confrontation between Lynn and Dutch, revealing their long-standing feud as estranged brothers. In a climatic showdown in the rocky wilderness, Lynn finally gets justice, reclaiming both the rifle and his past. But Winchester 73 is more than just a weapon. It's a symbol of fate, power, and the lawless spirit of the West. 310 to Yuma, 1957.
Feel better now? I had to try you out. I didn't think you'd shoot.
This movie is a tense, psychological western that explores honor, duty, and the blurred lines between good and evil. When notorious outlaw Ben Wade, played by Glenn Ford, is finally captured after robbing a stagecoach, the townspeople of Bisbee, Arizona are too afraid to transport him to justice. Enter Dan Evans, played by Van Heflin, a struggling rancher desperate for money to support his family. For a reward of $200, he agrees to escort Wade to contention, where the outlaw will board the 310 train to Yuma prison. But Wade is no ordinary prisoner. Charismatic and cunning, he uses every opportunity to undermine Evans, tempting him with bribes, playing mind games, and subtly planting doubt. As Evans struggles to keep Wade in custody, Wade's ruthless gang closes in, determined to free their leader before the train departs. The journey becomes a battle of wills, leading to a tense standoff at the hotel in contention. As the clock ticks towards 3:10, Evans must decide what kind of man he truly is. In the end, despite overwhelming odds, he forces Wade onto the train, proving his courage. But in a surprising twist, Wade willingly steps aboard himself, showing respect for the man who stood his ground. The Big Country, 1958.
You don't shoot an unarmed man, not while I'm around.
I'll give him a gun, Pa! Give the dude a gun and let him stand up and draw like a man.
I'll fight him any way he likes.
This epic western explores pride, honor, and the futility of violence against the vast, unforgiving backdrop of the American frontier. James McKay, played by Gregory Peck, is a former sea captain from the East. He arrives in the rugged West to marry Patricia Terrell, played by Carol Baker, the daughter of a powerful rancher, Major Henry Terrell, played by Charles Bickford. But McKay quickly finds himself caught in the middle of a brutal land feud between the Terrells and their bitter rivals, the Hannesys, led by the fierce Rufus Hannessy, played by Burl Ives. Unlike the hot-headed men around him, McKay refuses to be drawn into senseless fights, especially with Patricia's arrogant suitor Steve Leach, played by Charlton Heston, who sees him as weak. But McKay is no coward. He proves his strength in private, taming an untamable horse and secretly besting Leach in a grueling fistfight, refusing to boast about it. As tensions escalate, the feud leads to a deadly standoff in Blanco Canyon. McKay, guided by his own moral compass, rejects violence and ultimately walks away from the senseless bloodshed, realizing Patricia is not the woman for him. Instead, he finds true love with the independent and courageous Julie Marigan, proving that real strength lies not in brute force, but in self-control and integrity. Bend of the River, 1952.
Every time you bed down for the night, you'll look back into the darkness and wonder if I'm there. And some night I will be. You'll be seeing me.
This is another great western about redemption, betrayal, and survival in the untamed frontier. Glenn McClintock, played by James Stewart, is a former outlaw seeking a fresh start, guiding a wagon train of settlers to the Oregon Territory. Haunted by his past, he hopes to leave his violent ways behind him and prove himself as a man of honor. During the journey, McClintock rescues Emerson Cole, a charming but dangerous man who shares a similar checkered past. The two form an uneasy friendship, but as they help the settlers establish a new community, greed and ambition begin to surface. After the settlers' much-needed supplies are hijacked by profiteers, McClintock and Cole head to Portland to retrieve them. However, Cole betrays McClintock, revealing his true nature and siding with the outlaws who seek to sell the goods for a fortune. In a thrilling pursuit through the treacherous mountain wilderness, McClintock fights to reclaim the stolen supplies and protect the settlers who place their trust in him. In the end, McClintock proves that redemption comes not from escaping the past, but from standing by one's own principles. With justice restored, he secures a future for the settlers and reclaims his honor in the bend of the river. Johnny Guitar, 1954.
You'll have to do it yourself, Emma.
Johnny Guitar is a bold and unconventional western filled with psychological tension, fierce rivalries, and themes of power and identity. Vienna, played by Joan Crawford, is a strong-willed saloon owner in the Arizona frontier. She refuses to bow to the demands of the local cattlemen who see her as a threat to their control. She stands alone against Emma Small, a bitter and vengeful woman who despises Vienna not just for her independence, but for her past connection to the outlaw, the Dancing Kid. When Vienna's former lover, the mysterious and guitar-strumming Johnny Guitar, arrives in town, It reignites old passions and conflicts. Emma falsely accuses Vienna of being in league with the Dancing Kids gang and whips the town into a frenzy demanding justice. Vienna and Johnny are forced to flee, but the storm of hatred and jealousy follows them. As the tension reaches a breaking point, Vienna and Emma face off in a dramatic gunslinging showdown. Two women locked in a battle for power and survival. In the end, Vienna prevails, proving her strength in a world dominated by men. With the town behind her and Johnny by her side, she walks away victorious, leaving behind the ruins of an old world that could not break her spirit. The Gunfighter, 1950.
Well, draw an unarmed man? I never did that in my life. You gotta give everybody a fair chance, don't you?
This film is a poignant and introspective Western that explores the burden of a violent past and the inescapable fate of a man who has lived by the gun. Jimmy Ringo, played by Gregory Peck, is a legendary gunslinger, feared and respected across the West. But after years of killing, he is tired, haunted by his reputation, and longing for a quiet life. Hoping for redemption, Ringo rides into the town of Cayenne, where his estranged wife Peggy and their young son live. He wants nothing more than to reunite with them and leave his gunfighting days behind. But his name carries weight, and trouble follows wherever he goes. Young, reckless gunslingers, eager to make a name for themselves, seek him out, while old enemies lurk in the shadows. Even the townsfolk, fascinated by his infamy, refuse to let him fade into obscurity. As he waits for Peggy's decision, the past catches up with him in the form of an eager young gunman. In a tragic twist, Ringo is gunned down, not in a grand duel, but by a cowardly shot from behind. With his dying breath, he warns the town sheriff to put an end to the cycle of violence. As he's laid to rest, Ringo's legend lives on, a cautionary tale of a man who could never outrun his past. These 10 films represent what I feel is the pinnacle of 1950s westerns, blending action, character depth, and moral complexity in ways that elevated the genre beyond simple shootouts and frontier justice. Each film explores timeless themes through unforgettable characters and masterful storytelling. With iconic performances, stunning cinematography, and emotionally charged narratives, these westerns remain not just cinematic masterpieces of their era, but essential films that continue to captivate audiences and shape the legacy of that genre. Whether you agree or disagree, leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you love classic movies, TV, cartoons, and nostalgia, you're going to love it here at Rerun Zone, so hit that subscribe button on your way out. This is Rich from Rerun Zone wishing you happy trails and a good night.